Monster Hunter World is Capcom's biggest recent success, selling a whopping 10 million copies total across the PS4, Xbox One, and recently PC, in less than a year from its launch back in January 2018. But despite this massive success, fans of the game are currently only being drip-fed content that seemingly can't hold players' attention for too long. While comparatively to previous games' DLC content, the content they've been adding to World, what with events and even arch-tempered monsters, is actually pretty stellar. But the main problem comes from World's initial bleak roster of monsters, leaving players fighting the same monsters they've been fighting for 7 months mostly, just in different sizes depending on event, or in the case of arch-tempered monsters, basically just harder hitting damage sponges than normal, and in most cases offering nothing new to the table as far as combat, and the rewards are slightly improved armors than the default, without much appearance change besides a slight glow. So this slow, frankly repetitive added content is just not doing it for me and keeping me wanting to play for long hours at a time, like I did back at launch, as those who follow me have probably noticed, and I could say a handful of others can probably agree with that feeling, especially as of recent. While it's true the base game, aka the non-Ultimate or G version of a Monster Hunter game, had always had a smaller roster than a previous G or Ultimate version, Monster Hunter Worlds was actually one of the lowest initial roster counts since the very first Monster Hunter game released back on the PS2. You might say this was a common complaint on first reveal of the leak list of Monster Hunter World, which, while yes, that's what it essentially boils down to, but it also has to do with the kinds of monsters currently in the game itself that serve as a catalyst to the problem, especially when it comes to the end game, where the game pushes you to fighting a certain handful for decoration or streamstone farming, which actually artificially lowers the actual count of monsters you tend to fight even more. With this small roster in mind, many of the monsters I feel are too similar in the way they fight, from animations to just the attack patterns and the way players tend to fight them. Now, Monster Hunter has always shared similar monster types, often in groups of several species, so it's understandable that some of them within their respective groups fight similarly to each other. But Capcom has funneled too much of the same species group into World, making the roster heavily flying wyvern based, again leading to essentially almost half of the available monsters feeling very samey when fighting, both on the monsters' end and the way the players fight them. The rare exception being Diablos and Basilkees, which fight very differently and actually feel very unique compared to the others, but even Diablos has a subspecies in World which fights very similar to it. Puke and Palamu are joke fights and are so basic to wyverns that they don't feel threatening or unique much at all, even despite Palamu being hyped pre-launch for hopefully being something cool and different to match its appearance. And we all know how that went. The Rafts are all pretty much the same fight, all 4 of them, and Legiana can join that squad as well, albeit just slightly more unique. So yes, they all have some unique features and attacks, but they all essentially play the same in terms of the fight itself, so you end up less excited to fight them again, since if you fought one, well, you fought them all. Whereas something like comparing Baroth, a brute wyvern, to Brachydios or Glavenus or Deviljho, all within the same species group like the others that I mentioned, but these all play vastly different from each other on both the monster and player end, with different dangers and attack patterns to them. So this is what I feel World currently lacks most. Top it off with the endgame being a grind against the same 4 or 5 Elder Dragons in terms of decoration farming, and their barely different arch-tempered forms added months later, you can start to see why I feel the game is in a repetitive state for those that have played since launch anyways. Now, all is not bad, as we did see some truly unique monsters added to the game, like Deviljho, Koltarok, and the frightening Behemoth, as well as actually getting some truly unique and fun fighting mons like Odogaron, Basilgeuse, and Nergigante in the base game, and these are what I like to see more of, and in particular I would love to see less Elder Dragon focus for a bit. Just on hearsay, most people's top 3 favorite monster lists consist of non-Elder Dragons. Now, while I don't believe Capcom is going to add any of those in this drip feed process they're going on, I still think they'll stick close to the initial leak list, leaving Orochi Kirin and Elatrion to be the up-and-comers. But again, harkening back to Monster Hunter World's success, I'm 100% confident that we're gonna get some hefty expansion next year for World. Likely a G rank one, as many have asked for, and as with any Ultimate Edition, comes with it New monsters. So here's my top 5 monsters I want to see added to Monster Hunter World. This list aims to counter the current weakness I mentioned of World, but also generally consists of monsters I like and mons that would mostly be in line with World's aesthetic. So starting out with number 5, this is actually a general slot, but it goes to any insectoid monster. What's an easy way to stir the blandness of the current roster in World? Well, how about adding a species that doesn't even exist in World, an insect monster. This species is far and few between in the series, but most insectoid monsters in past Mon Hun games have been generally well liked, and are also very different from any other monster in terms of the fight. I would like to see a newly designed insect monster, perhaps a long centipede or hell, a giant army ant like Mon, but I'd be happy if Nursilla or Celtis Queen make an appearance in World, the spider appearing in Rotten Vale, and Celtis Queen in Ancient Forest, and perhaps even Wildspire Waste. Moving on to number 4, as part of a future expansion, many are hoping for an ice map, and Coral Highlands certainly wasn't doing that job right, so with the introduction of a proper ice map, we'll need an ice monster. There are many to choose from, and most are very unique fights to anything we have in World. As much as I would love to have my favorite Fated 4, Gammoth, be in, I think it's unlikely they'll add those 4 in World, so I'm going to have to go with Blaganga. Now, hear me out, I hate this thing as much as you do, but it honestly would be a great addition to World, not only filling an ice-type monster slot, meaning more ice-type weapons, but also being an agile mammal species, especially if they can spruce up its moveset like they did Lunastra. And even if they didn't add a new ice map, it still could fit decently well in Coral Highlands, and its design isn't over the top like some other ice-type monsters. We're now halfway through the top 5, and while its design is likely a bit much compared to most things in World, we do have Xeno'jiiva in the game, so I have to include Zinogre in the top 5. Not only does it supply some much needed lightning weapons, but it's also a very unique fight, both fun and potentially dangerous, and comes with it an amazing theme.
Which is much needed in World, more soundtracks.
It is also often found in fans' top 3 favorite monster lists, and can inhabit a wide spread of terrains, being able to appear in Ancient Forest, Elder Recess, Coral Highlands, and as mentioned, a potential ice map. Definitely want to see him in World one day. But a monster I want to see even more is the Raging Tigrex, taking the number 2 spot. Like Zinogre, I don't really have to mention how awesome and unique the fight is compared to other monsters most fans know, but Tigrex could pretty much inhabit every map available, which means you don't have to repeatedly fight him in one area. I also specifically hold Tigrex above Zinogre due to its design. It matches World's aesthetic much more, and with the graphics and texture system of World, making its scales realistic looking would look amazing. He's also fierce as hell, likely chasing hunters around the map, which World somewhat lacks a bit, monsters with character. And finally, we've arrived at my number 1 pick for my most wanted monster I'd like to see in World, providing not only a unique fight, but a true endgame challenging one, a boss if you will, that even comes with its own stage. I'm crossing my fingers for my favorite monster of all time to appear, Amatsu Magatsuchi. Yes, I'm probably biased in this pick, but I truly think this Elder Dragon would blow people away, literally, if added in World. The atmosphere, the music, its size, the tactics involved, stormy clouds and lightning going off around the area, all in World's engine, and after struggling against the storm, its unique defeat, would be a dream come true for me personally if he was added in World, whether that means World's Ultimate Edition or even World 2. But that is my top 5 monsters I'd like to see in World. Again, the purpose of these monsters would not only be fun fights, but refreshing compared to the current roster that also provides some extra benefits and makes sense for World's more realistic style. Also obviously consists of monsters we know of. Who knows what new monsters they plan to create. But let's hope they kick ass and are fun to fight like the classics. Sorry for the rant earlier, but that's just how I feel regarding the current DLC state. I figured I'd give you guys a reason for why I'm not playing or uploading much of Monster Hunter World. I can only get so excited about more Arch-Tempered Mons. Hopefully Capcom releases some new Mons soon, or at the least, announce plans for an expansion of sorts before year's end. We're all chomping at the bit for more content. But I'm curious to see what your guys' top 5 monsters you'd like to see added in the world, so make sure to leave a comment of your top 5 below. I'm expecting to see a lot of Rajangs as your guys number 1, right? Anyways, thanks guys. Hitting the like button on the video helps. Subscribe if you want. And I'll see you guys in the new world, maybe, for more Mon Hun epicness. Cue new outro! Yay!